Steve here, and I want to talk today about HTTP, and in particular one particular feature of HTTP, which is that it is a stateless protocol. And I just want to unpack what that means and some of the implications it has for how we work with HTTP. It's illustrated really nicely with this cartoon, which is why I included in the notes here. It's an ex-KCD cartoon, and you should go and find out more about him and the stuff that he does, but it's a great little illustration of HTTP as a stateless protocol. We have a little server. It says, "Hi, I'm a server, who are you?" And this is the conversation between a client and a server. "I'm a browser, I'd like to see this article." So he's given a URL and sent an HTTP request. And the server says, "Oh, I can help. Let me get it for you." "Oh, you're a smartphone browser." So it's actually, that's something we'll talk about later. It's looked at the HTTP request, which has information about what kind of a browser it is, and it's actually decided then it will send a smartphone aware version of a page. And cool, hey, I've got this new mobile version of the site, check it out. So it sends back the response, and sure, this is just the mobile site's main page. Where's the article I wanted? So I want to send another request now for a different article, and the server says, "What article?" "The one who are you?" I'm a server. "Hi, I'm a server." So we're back to the beginning again. And what this really illustrates is that HTTP is a protocol where every request that is sent is independent of every previous request. It's stateless, which means that the server doesn't need to remember anything about the client that it's talking to. It's a one-shot protocol. You send your request, and we've seen the request looks like something like this. I send my request, I get my response. The server is then able to forget about me altogether and just go about its business and do things it wants. Here's a picture of a server, a very, very simplistic one. And so, just to illustrate that, we have a client here sending a request out to the server. The server does whatever it does to generate the response to that. It sends the response back as an HTML page, and then the next one comes along, and we get the request and the response, and the request and the response, and each of these is independent of all the previous responses and requests. Okay, the server does not have to remember anything about the client. It doesn't remember that it just had something from the client, and the context of a conversation. It is able to do that. Now, this means, and this is one of the reasons why we're able to actually implement very fast processing of requests on the web. So the web is written as a stateless protocol, which means that the web server itself doesn't really need to remember anything, and so it can do its job very fast. Now, when the web server is just serving pages, so here's a page of my book or whatever, that's fine. We don't need to know anything about that person. But there are many situations on the web where we do want to know something about the client. Okay, we do want to remember some kind of state. So, for example, the really common one is if I'm logging in, right? If I want to do a bank transaction, for example, then I would like all of these requests and responses to be related to each other. I would like the web server to remember, or in particular the application that is running on the web server, to remember who I am. And so that's one of the things that we're going to encounter in our developing of web applications. Let me insert a new picture here. Let me just insert a web application. So here I've got a web application. I'm going to make it a different color. And so the web application is going to need to remember who I am. So this is my banking application. It's going to talk to the web server. It's going to exchange information. So the web server is responsible for getting these requests and responses. The web application is the thing that's going to be responsible for keeping track of who I am. All right, so the web application has got to somehow remember that all of these requests and responses came from the same person. Now we need a way of doing that, and we're going to look at that a little bit later. That's sessions and cookies. But the protocol itself, the raw HTTP protocol, is such that there is no memory required, and every request that we make is separate. It is a new request and is a separate request. And that's a very important feature of HTTP that you need to understand and know about.